Welcome to Pantera Basketball Live. Canada in the group of death makes it through. They were the Reaper. All right, 3-0 for the Canadians. Another big game from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and RJ Barrett, who have sort of formed the dynamic duo for Team Canada. And another really, really tough night in which the clearest weakness is exposed over and over. And heading out of group stage and into the quarterfinals, big moment for Canada basketball. And yet, there is a bit of what ifism here because they'll tell you the good parts of this roster are very good. What's good about this roster? Well, for starters, it's been a really long time. I would argue, I'm not necessarily the biggest Steve Nash booster. So I would say Canada has never had a top five player in the NBA ever. They've never had a top five player in the world. They have one, and he's committed to this program big time. All right. I don't think they've ever had this much depth, especially in the perimeter. I don't remember, at least in the last 20 years, having two perimeter defenders on caliber with Dylan Brooks and the Dorcher Chamber, Lou Dort. I don't remember that, right? And frankly, there aren't a lot of teams that boast this level of depth, this level of talent at the guard. And frankly, RJ Barrett has been a brilliant revelation for this team. And in FIBA basketball, he is king, right? He didn't lead them in scoring tonight, but he hits that big three in the corner. Shea sucks in the defender, goes down the middle, and then boom, out to the corner. RJ Barrett, big celebration. Canada goes up 85 to 80 at that point. And then Sergio Yul hits the three off an offensive rebound. Color me surprised, right? Canada is small. They give up an offensive rebound. Sergio Yul hits the three, and then it's a free throw game, and then Canada survives. But this game shouldn't have been close. You could argue it shouldn't have been close. But of course, on the other end, you have the men's, just one of the best coaches in the world in Sergio Scariolo. Obviously, Toronto Raptors fans should be familiar with Sergio because he was a lead assistant on the championship team, and you saw a lot of that janky defense that the Raptors played this time around with with Team Spain as well. Also, an interesting storyline, which is that the Raptors' Team Canada's current, I'm used to saying Raptors, I apologize. Team Canada's current head coach, Jordi Fernandez, who is from Catalonia or is Catalan, like it's a different language. And there's this entire thing about is Catalonia Spain? And if you've ever heard Catalan language, it's not Spanish. And so effectively there's this entire separatist movement that has gained steam and whatnot. So he is not technically Spanish, but he has spent considerable amounts of time with the Spanish national team. And Catalonia, I guess, is a part of Spain. So he grew up in Spain, but a distinct part of Spain. And anyway, nevertheless, he was an assistant with this team, with the Spanish national team when they were doing really well. And now he is the head coach of Team Canada. And so that was a very interesting storyline to be the coach on the team that effectively knocked Spain out of group stage. So it was an interesting storyline. Anyways, in terms of what went right for Team Canada, it's been pretty much consistent. It's been what's been going right the entire way through, right? It's been a lot of RJ Barrett, efficient offense overall. We've been used to a lot more of a well-rounded game from RJ Barrett, like, 20 points, seven rebounds, 5 assists. Today, he has 16 points. Let's just take a look quickly at the box score, but a very efficient 6 for 10. He hits his only three-point attempt, and they needed it. They really needed it. Okay. And then look, you could say it's this is a arbitrary example. Spain was definitely the worst team in Group A, if you want my honest opinion. Australia is better than them. Greece is better than them. It's just a really tough group because you don't have an obvious weak link. You don't have a Japan here. You don't have a team like that. And so, Spain by default became the weakest team in Group A, which is weird. And then, of course, Greece is like the second weakest team in Group A. And you're just like, whoa, like if Greece is the second weakest team, Canada's in trouble. And Canada was in trouble several times in this game. And frankly, several times throughout this tournament, it's come down to, whoa, like fourth quarter, it can go either way. And you can say a win's a win, and I agree with that. I agree with that. It matters that you come out. I don't like these people who say, "Hey, Canada has the easiest, time. They have the best roster." Sorry, they're gonna have like the toughest time, and then when they win, they're like, "Oh, they should have won by more." That to me is a little disingenuous. You have to salute 3-0, and you have to be respectful of the fact that this team, this specifically the starting lineup of Lou Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, RJ Barrett, Dwight Powell, and Dylan Brooks has been spectacular in terms of defense. Offense today did not look great. Okay. It straight up didn't. The cutting, the movement, some of the shot making was all right, but it just felt stagnant, right? It felt really stagnant. And of course, they get killed on the glass, and they didn't have a lot. And then thankfully their second unit, they brought not as much as you would have liked either. And that's where I think, you're probably, if you're Jordy Fernandez, you're looking at that second unit and you're like, man, I need more from Kelly Olynyk. Man, I need more from Jamal Murray. There's no way in hell I have two guys who started the bulk of their careers in the NBA who are still serviceable NBA players. And in the case of Jamal Murray, some people consider him, the best player in the NBA to not be an all-star. He has not looked like it so far. He is struggling with his shot. He is struggling with his decision making. He had 6 assists tonight, but he forced some stuff. He really did. And he leads the team in assists. So I think this was a better game for him tonight. But in terms of getting his shot off, in terms of putting pressure, in terms of defending, this has been a big weakness. Luckily for Team Canada, it was Andrew Nembhard to the rescue, right? 8 for 10 from the field, 18 points, really just a solid shot making, day. And Nikhil Alexander Walker continues to go over, and Kem Birch and Kelly Olynyk and Trey Lyles continue to be very, very sorry on the glass. I think, you can make a case that Kem Birch has pretty much outplayed those two. And that is a really sad reality if you're a Raptor fan who is looking at the fact that Kelly Olynyk just signed a 2-year, $24 million extension into the twilight of his career. And you're looking around at contracts being handed out right now if you're a Raptor fan and you're like, yikes, did we massively overpay here? And yeah, we did. So, like, I think it was always going to be a bit of an overpay, but to the point where now you have to start asking yourself a question. You have to overpay hometown guys? Like, isn't that the whole point? I don't know. I don't know. This is weird. I think it is important, however, to realize that FIBA is not NBA. There are plenty of guys who've lit it up in FIBA. Juancho Hernan Gomez, Dennis Schroeder. There's a lot of guys out there that have done super well at the FIBA level, or, in the World Cup or in the Olympics, and they haven't had a lot of success at the NBA level. They haven't been able to translate that, right? So it doesn't always translate one for one. And I don't necessarily think that Kelly is going to struggle the same way. I think he is a player that maybe is going to do better with the increased spacing of the NBA, playing off of even better players. But that being said, he's been really soft, right, inside. And when you go up against a Serbia or a France or a team that can really punish you, because so far you're getting punished by Jock Landale, right? You're getting punished by Giannis, who is like a really, okay, that's legit. Everyone gets punished by Giannis. But now you're getting punished by the third stringers on Spain. Like, that's what's happening now. I mean, you were expecting Santi Aldama to do work, and he on the glass he did work. He had 11 rebounds, but then you consider Pradilla, sorry, and he had 4 offensive rebounds, and you had Sergio Yul coming off, and you had Dario Brizuela, 17 points. He wasn't even in their rotation through most of the tournament. Rudy Fernandez, I think he got injured last game, so he was not much. The guys that you were expecting to really murk you were the NBA guys, the guys that you're familiar with, like Juancho Hernan Gomez, Willie Hernan Gomez, like those guys, right? You were expecting those guys to destroy you, and those were not the guys that really carried. It was Sergio Yul and Dario Berzola and, frankly, Perdilla off the bench, like just hammering the glass. And schematically, I would argue I don't think Canada has been super well coached so far. It's now, again, it's not always up to coaching. Sometimes it comes down to buy-in. Are the players bought in? Have they meshed enough? Or, is there some stuff? Or, hey, is this a team that's going to turn it up to another level now that, we're past the group stage? Either way you look at it, it's a really big thing that against a really desperate opponent, you still come out on top, even when they have everything to play for. And you technically have a lot to play for in a sense, because they were 1-2 coming in. They were 1-1 coming into this. You were 1-2-0. So in theory, like they could have still made it. Like, so they had everything to play for. But at 2-0, I don't think that you could have been knocked out of this. You wouldn't have been knocked out of it, right? So in theory, Spain was definitely the more desperate team, and they looked like it. Canada got to the line a lot, in large part due to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who missed a lot of threes, missed a lot of free throws, but also made the ones that really counted. But they got hammered on the glass. Offensive rebound differential 17-8. That is inexcusable. And also, Spain turns it over more, but credit Canada's defense. Again, their perimeter defense has been really good. Country Kong saying Kelly's been cooked. That trade was bad. I think he's just out of position, man. He's playing center a lot, and I'm not really sure that's his jam, right? So, anyways, we look at the overall summary here. Let's take a quick look here in terms of the chart for the game. And, Canada was it was neck and neck right into the first half, and then Canada pulls away in the third quarter. But then, right towards the end of the second half, and for end of the first half, going into the third quarter, Canada was on a massive run, right? And it was Jamal Murray made jumper, Dwight Howell made free throw, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander made jumper. It's just like it was a pretty balanced attack across the board. And then it was offensive rebounds, man. It was offensive rebounds, it was breakdowns, it was stagnant defense and stagnant offense. And again, when you go up against a team like France, you wonder if this lack of physicality that Canada has shown inside is really going to hurt them. And I think that it is going to be up to those, four bigs, right? Specifically Dwight Powell, right? Kelly Olynyk, Kem Birch, those guys specifically, to look in the mirror and say, are we willing to cost our country a cup? Because it's not about being big, bro. It's not about being big. It is really just about putting a body on somebody. It's about getting real physical. It's about getting your hands on someone. It's about, moving a guy. It's about doing the early work. I mean, this is effort. Rebounding is effort. It's effort and physicality. It's willing to take, a couple of bruises in order to get position. And, the most physical players on Team Canada right now are your wings, your RJ Barretts, your Dylan Brooks, but they are massively undersized and they're not necessarily the greatest rebounders. You don't have a Scotty Barnes. You don't have a guy who can get 14, 15 rebounds for you from the wing position, right? You don't have a Giannis Antetokounmpo. You don't even have, someone of the athletic profile of a Scottie Pippen who could double down, or Jason Tatum who can do that, right? So Jason Williams saying Powell has been putting in work, but he needs help. I agree. I agree. So, it's not enough though. I say like the talent gap is huge here in terms of where Dwight Powell should be in an ideal gold medal rotation. He should be probably the third string big, right? But right now, because your backup bigs are necessarily not very physical. Like if any of them had the physical tools and the, just the overall, if you had even a Bruno Fernando, I think you could make an argument that he would be probably starting for you right now. And that's the crazy thing about just how depleted Canada is at that center spot. SP saying Wiggins would work here. Well, I'm more inclined to say that chemistry matters. And if a guy didn't really want to do it, I don't think you force him and help your cause too much, right? Kel, John saying Aldama shouldn't be out rebounding Kelly. No, he definitely should be out rebounding Kelly. Santi Aldama is really good. He's very athletic. He's very long. He absolutely should be out rebounding Kelly. He shouldn't be out muscling Kelly. Is probably the better question, right? Is like where are you getting these rebounds? Also, a lot of long shots, a lot of long rebounds, right? So once they get Zach, they'll be all right. I don't think he's enough, but if he gets really good, he might be. Okay, by the way, guys, this is a call-in show. We got Coach Mo calling in. I'm gonna get to Coach Mo in about 3 minutes, and if anyone else wants to call in, we can have a lively discussion about this. I also wanna mention that the Raptors did sign Bruno Fernando. Now, this news was out 3 days ago, but it was finally confirmed by Blake Murphy today. I got a DM from my boy over in Olympiacos. He's playing for that team, and he said that, Bruno's heading your way. There was some talk about him potentially going to Europe, but yeah, the Hawks cut him, I think, 3 days ago, and it was right away that the Raptors started negotiating this, and I have mixed thoughts. On the one hand, I have played many simulations in 2K in which Bruno Fernando became my definitive third string center, and I loved him. On the other hand, I've also watched a real version of him play, and it's a mixed bag, right? So I'll give you the very brief summary of what Bruno Fernando is for those of you who haven't watched him play. And if you should have watched him play, I think he had, I think, what, 12 points. He had a pretty big game against the Raptors last season. So to give you an idea, so he has had 4 stints in the NBA. He has played for Atlanta, he has played for Houston, he has played for Boston, and then he has played again for Atlanta. So, funny enough, if you blinked, you would have thought he stayed with Atlanta his whole career, but he did not. He's been moved 4 times in was 5 years. He's a former Montverde Eagle. So he was there, I believe, the year before RJ got there. I was thinking like, wait, did they overlap? I don't think they did. So it's interesting now. The If you look at every single roster that Montverde has had from, I think, 2015 till 2020, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you've had a Raptor on all of them. So you've had Precious Achiuwa, that's gone now. You have RJ Barrett, you have now Bruno Fernando, you had Scotty Barnes. So a lot of Mount Verde Eagles. I mean, to be taking that many players from a prep program is pretty crazy. That being said, he is a very mixed bag offensively and defensively. Defensively, he's a pretty solid big, not overly switchable, but he handles his role well. He cuts hard. He dives very well. He's extremely aggressive with the basketball, right? He's not timid. That I'll tell you. He's not timid about putting up 2, 3 shots at the rim. He is the worst possible version of what I expect Yves Missi to be, if that makes sense. Like, if I project out Yves Missi's career, the worst version of him is basically Bruno Fernando. That is exactly it. He doesn't have a lot of playmaking chops. He's very efficient around the rim, if that makes you feel any better about it. He gets there a lot. He's very physical. He likes to bang, and he will have a couple of really big dunks. It would not surprise me to see him carve out a role for himself as a backup center, especially because his current competition is Brandon Carlson and Ulrich Shamshay. I do want to say, however, that the gap between him and Christian Koloko as prospects is enormous. And frankly, he's older than Christian Koloko. I think he's 25 years old right now. So it's not a lost cause, right? There are plenty of bigs. There's a lot of theory that bigs develop late, etc. There's a lot of bigs that from 25 to 30, it's much better than 20 to 25. The issue with him, two prong, doesn't play make well. So I don't see how he fits into what Darko Rajakovic wants to do. Because again, if I'm taking minutes away from someone that fits a lot better into what Darko wants to do for the rest of the team, like a Jonathan Mobo, for an upgrade on rebounding and offensive rebounding and probably true shooting percentage at the rim, I don't know. It's a wash. It's a wash. You know, I don't think he impacts winning too much, but he's definitely a massive upgrade over some of the bigs you played last year, like specifically Malik Williams and Mohamedou Gay. He's a better player than those guys for sure. And, at this point, I'm a little curious about, he has a lot of overlap with Chris Boucher as well in terms of the non-playmaking, bad decision making stuff. It's not even bad decision making. He just has one decision, which is go up. He just wants to go up. He's not a playmaker at all. He doesn't pass well out of those situations. He will take it up over 2, 3 defenders, and he doesn't care. He's ripping the rim off every single time. And that's just a limitation that he has, right? He isn't very smart off the ball either. I'm not trying to paint this guy as a really dumb player, but like, I'm just trying to keep it 100. I've watched a lot of him play because I was very curious about him as a young prospect. And yeah, his just awareness in terms of, you know, basketball IQ is very limited, but his overall aggression makes up for a lot of it because he's not. Let me put it this way. There are players that are extremely clueless, but also extremely timid, like they're passive, and somehow they're even worse for that, right? Because like when you're unsure about what to do and you don't make quick decisions with the basketball, it really hurts that you suck up 2, 3, 4 seconds. It helps sometimes when you have somebody who makes sometimes bad decisions, but they're aggressive decisions, right? Precious Achiuwa is, I guess, an example of someone who makes a lot of aggressive decisions. A much, 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 much better player than Precious Achiuwa is someone like RJ Barrett, who sometimes makes a lot of aggressive decisions, but sometimes they're the wrong decisions. Like there was a play in the first quarter today where RJ goes into a defender. I want to say it was Dylan Brooks's guy who peeled off the corner to come and offer help. And while that was happening, he didn't see it. Like he just can't see it. He's not seeing it at all. And it was an easy pass over. Instead, he goes one more step and he gets stripped. So it's like that help came on him because teams know that he's not the most gifted passer. That same situation with Shea, you wouldn't send that help because Shea's a better passer. So again, you want to have players who make really great decisions with the basketball, but the last thing you want is a player who is not making the greatest decisions, but they're also very timid and very passive decisions. So I like the fact that he's aggressive. I like the fact that he's athletic. You know, if you're going to run a transition offense with RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly, you're going to run pace and space. It helps. It helps a lot to have a player who has that sort of rim running ability, right? Carl saying, dig a bit and you'll see Bruno Fernando is a pretty good passer for a big man. He's not he's not he's not Christian Koloko, he's not Yurish Shamshay, he's not Kelly Olynyk, he's not Jakob Poeltl. Is he better than certain bigs? Yeah, sure. I'll agree with that. You know, that was part of the promise of him as a young player. I just don't love his decision making. And frankly, with his overall athletic profile, with his assertiveness, with his rebounding, if you really believe that he's a great passer, then he wouldn't be signing a non-guaranteed deal. I promise you that. Guardian Transit saying another Precious. It's not another Precious. It's definitely not. He doesn't have nearly the hip mobility, switchability stuff that Precious did, but he's also way, way less dynamic than Precious. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not gonna do try to do 15 different things with the basketball. Like he is going one way. And I don't know. I think it could be a really interesting pairing with Scotty. Scotty hasn't had a lot of players like Bruno to play with. That being said, if Christian Koloko ends up clearing medicals over the next week, I could expect this being rescinded very quickly, or he just gets a camp invite. There's no guarantee on this deal. And that kind of shows you where the NBA is right now. You know, you look at a player like Usman Garuba that we just watched with Spain. He is, like, in theory, a really fantastic defensive prospect, like, really he had switch ability, he was very, tough, like, off the basketball, like, he had a lot of good athletic stuff, and, for him, like, he hasn't really cracked through, and, again, I had some hopes for him, for sure, during the pre-draft cycle, like, I was like, "Oh, this guy could be really interesting." It hasn't really worked out. It's the same thing with Bruno Fernando. I believe he was the 34th overall pick, and Garuba was a first round pick. So, it goes to show you what I was talking about a few lives ago, which is that NBA teams, they're not overly patient with this, right? You need to show charted growth year over year over year. I promise you, if you're a really good player, like there's a couple things that scare me off of this, and there's a couple things. It's a very mixed bag. I'll give you the pluses and the minuses, and then we'll get to Coach Mo. Pluses. It's a non-guaranteed deal. There's still some upside. So that's 2 pluses. He's very athletic. He is very athletic, and number 4, he is very aggressive, and number 5, he fits in terms of a transition offense, and 6, he gives you something that you don't really have on your roster, which is a real NBA rim protecting, hustle, rim attacking big. Like, you just don't have that player on your team right now. You could look across the board. Kelly ain't it, Jakob ain't it, Scotty ain't it. Like, you just don't have that player on your team, right? So it's a player type that you don't have. You may develop that. You may develop a hundred times better version of that with Ulrich, but you don't have that ready made right now. Okay. Okay. Downside, has not shown a tremendous amount of growth over the last 4 years. I've been watching him for like the last 5 years now. I haven't really seen some sort of steady, like, oh, this thing he's bad at. He got better at it next year. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of growth. There's peaks and valleys, lots of peaks and valleys, still a lot of inconsistency. Okay. Yes, I did. Good for Bruno Caboclo. I will always root for Bruno Caboclo. I don't know what it is, but that kid has my support forever. Okay. So has not shown a great amount of growth. I don't know why he's been on 4 different teams in 5 years. Usually not the best thing. Look at it 15 different ways. You can say it's because he's always in demand, someone saw potential in him. I get that. Or you could say it's because the people who get to know him maybe don't see the point, right? So again, it's really hard to get a GM or a coach to give up on a young player that they really believe in. This is now like several franchises that have now got him into their camp, got him into their building, got him into their facility, and just decided a year later, nah, not for me. Could be a lot of different things. I hope he fits. Seems like a great guy. I'm rooting for him to do well. Obviously, I'm rooting much more for Christian Koloko to get that call and, to be the big. I hear a lot of people saying Christian is going to be way behind because he hasn't played basketball in a year. Y'all tripping. He has been playing hoops. He has been hooping, okay? Like, he has played basketball. It's not like he just sat there, and didn't play basketball for an entire year. Yeah, his development will be a little bit stagnated, but for those people saying, "Oh, he's going to be worse than he was as a rookie." No, man. He's already put on weight. He's got strength. He's developed his shot. Christian Koloko will be much better than he was as a rookie, and he was already really good as a rookie. So I am really rooting for Christian Koloko to get that call. Obviously, a lot of rumors given that he was with the Raptors during training camp and sorry, not training camp, summer league. He was hanging around with Masai and Bobby and stuff. So, who knows? It could just be one of those things of like, hey, we're friendly and we know the guy, and so we're just gonna hang around with him. But yeah. Anyways, I don't see any other calls. So let's Coach Mo. Coach Mo, what up, bro? What's going on?
What's up, Rob? I'm watching these games at work. The, the hours aren't great, right?
Mhm.
But I find my way. I sneak. I hide. But sorry about that. I'm getting these texts. Anyways,
No worries.
so these games are 10-minute quarters, right? 10,
Mhm.
10, 10, 10. 40-minute game. At what point are we going to see SGA get 30 plus minutes?
Hasn't he already had a game with 30 plus minutes?
Has he? Because today would have been the game. I mean, I guess not today, but or here's an easier, more specific question. We saw today a no starter lineup. Are we going to see that again?
I mean, we also saw a guy get in for less than a minute. Like,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was Ajim. Is it Malcolm Ajim? He's like the 12th guy, and he was in, and I was like, it was the end of the first quarter or the end of the second quarter. No, end of the first quarter. He gets
yeah,
in for a defense possession, and he's out. I was just like, was that just to get him on the court? That's pretty cool. Good
yeah.
for Jordy Fernandez. Melvin Ajim. There we go.
Um, so one thing I feel like the coach can do, and it's crazy for me saying, "Yo, this the coach should do this," but I think he needs to pair one scorer with one defender on the court at all times. Meaning, you need one of RJ and SGA on the court at all times because we're going into the knockout stage, and I think you need one of RJ and one of Brooks. You need your two consistent scorers and your two consistent defenders. One of them, and I would pair SGA and Dort because they have chemistry, and I feel like RJ is the lesser offensive player, but Brooks is a better offensive player than Dort, so it balances out. So it's RJ and Brooks, and like SGA and Dort, because I don't think you're going to survive with all bench. I just don't. I don't think you can survive in the next round in the knockout if you have Lyles, Kelly, and Murray on the court together playing defense. That you're just
Well, I
that's
mean, this makes more sense if you believe the notion that your best players are starting right now, which I'm not really sure they are.
so you have
Do
Nembhard. You're talking about Nembhard.
I'm talking about Nembhard and I'm talking about, in theory, Jamal Murray. I'm talking about those two. Again,
Yeah.
we don't know. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker,
He's been doo doo.
he's
He's been doo.
he has
He's
been
been doo
doo-doo.
doo.
I mean, again, it's different things, right? So with Kelly Olynyk, right, today, you would have expected him to score more in the short roll and to have better decision making. Instead, he was picking up fouls and he was getting baited into stupid stuff. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had 2 turnovers. So it's like, yeesh, right? Like, if you're not going to be physical on the glass and you're not going to provide any rim deterrence or shot blocking at all, you got to be great as a shooter and as a playmaker. He hasn't been.
Yep. I feel like
Maybe you get a game where he is, and he can do things that Dwight Powell and Kem Birch cannot. They cannot do the things that he can do.
yeah,
And the
but
same thing with Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray can do things that RJ Barrett cannot do. Dylan Brooks cannot do. And Andrew Nembhard and Jamal Murray, there's a way that you could spin it where, if we were having this conversation about an NBA team, that a backcourt of Andrew Nembhard and Jamal Murray would be looked at as a much better backcourt than RJ Barrett and Dylan Brooks.
yeah, but not in this context.
But not in this context. And that's exactly it, right? So that's where I think it's really hard, because we know these players as NBA players, and then once every year we see them in FIBA, and they're all different. They're all different. They look different. Some of them look washed, some of them look great. Jamal Murray playing away from, and again, the theory is Jamal Murray plus Kelly Olynyk puts Jamal Murray in a very familiar situation with a dynamic big passer that's supposed to be able to help him, right? So you should be able to get really positive production out of that second unit, even if you are running it as a line. Like, the average team, okay, of course, if you go up against USA, maybe you have to keep Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the court for 35 minutes. Maybe you have to do what you're saying. But against maybe a lesser team, especially in the next, given that Canada is going to be, I think, a top 3 seed, right?
Do we?
What's
So are we guaranteed to not get the U.S. in the first round?
Yes, you've
Thank
completely avoided
Okay,
USA.
so basically, if we win the
I
next
think we're
game,
going to
we're
get France.
guaranteed a medal. If we win the next game, we're guaranteed a medal. Oh,
No,
you have to win 3 more games. Yeah.
no, you're not
You have to
guaranteed
win
a
2 in a
medal.
row to guarantee a medal. You have to win 2 in a row to guarantee a medal.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
knockout now, right?
Yeah,
So it goes into knockout stage. So there's been a lot of confusion over this, because the numbers are not easily divisible, right? So you have 3 groups, you have 4 teams in each group, which means you have 12 teams vying for 8 spots, right? So it's not nearly as comfortable as, okay, finish top 3 in your group. Obviously, if you finish top 2 if you finished first in your group, you're probably going to make it through. But then after that, it gets a little murky, right? So the second team on each group, that makes 6. And then it's like 2 of the final 3. So effectively, what you have to do to ensure your odds is at least finish 2-1, because that mathematically almost guarantees you a spot.
Do you agree with this statement? I like the way Trey Lyles has been playing over Kelly Olynyk. What's crazy to me is Lyles and Olynyk have the same problem. They're not 5s, they're 4s. Like,
Mhm.
exclusively 4s to me, right?
Right.
They're not 3s, they're not 5s, they're 4s, and they're on the court together. So it's weird. But I think Lyles is better because I just think he's just more mobile, which makes him, he just has better foot speed, so it makes him a better defender, I guess. Even though Olynyk has better hands, but I don't know, it's just weird, man. And even though Murray is a better offensive player, what RJ does consistently, you can bank on it. Like, I can guarantee what RJ is going to give me. I can almost guarantee what Lou Dort is giving me, what Brooks is going to give me, obviously SGA. I can guarantee you what Dwight Powell is going to give me. I don't know what Kelly Olynyk is going to give me in this context. I don't know what I'm going to get from Jamal Murray. Nembhard, I can guarantee a little bit more. Alexander Walker, I know I'm not getting anything on offensively, but I can guarantee a little more defense. Even Birch,
It's been such a small sample size. Like, Canada's played 3 games, right? If we look at all of Nikhil's minutes, right? Like, are we sure that he's not about to have a 6 for 8 from 3 type of night
But
against
he's
USA. Do you know what I
bro.
mean? Like
No,
you gotta play out the odds here, right?
he's
Like
been on a run. He's been on a Tatum run where he's just missing everything. I've watched the playoffs. When I was watching that series, that last series, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking to myself, get this guy off the court. To me, he's just a low IQ. He's just a bad decision maker. When that guy takes more than like 4 dribbles, my heart stops. Like my heart stops. Get rid of the ball, please. He's close to the Precious Achua. Please get off the ball. Please
okay.
get off the ball. Please.
Okay.
He's in
Let
that category to me.
let me
Please.
ask you a question. Is there one player? I want to see how big the gap is between USA and Canada. Is there one player that if you could make a one for one trade, you could literally trade whoever you want on Team Canada for whoever you want on Team
Bro,
USA? This is like I don't know, the reparations against the United States for being so atrocious to the
do you know
world.
who it
Okay.
is? I
You
already
get
know
to,
who it is. I already know
okay.
who it is.
So you get to trade one player off of Team Canada
Okay.
and you get any player off of Team USA. Does that trade swing the balance? And what is that trade?
I already know who I'm taking. So I trade.
Can I guess?
I'm taking Bam.
Oh shit.
Oh, it's Bam. Bam
Okay.
makes us the best. Because not only can he stretch the
Wait,
floor.
who are you trading for him? Is it Melvin?
Yeah,
Melvin
yeah,
Najim is
yeah.
gone.
Because
Okay.
Ken Burke can come in handy. I can't even lie.
Okay.
But it's Bam.
So
Because
Bam Adebayo. Okay.
I don't think he's a better individual player than Anthony Davis. I actually think Anthony Davis is better, but that's splitting hairs at this point. I just think Bam
I don't
is
think
a
it's
more
splitting hairs.
versatile defender. I think he's a
Yeah.
better playmaker and he spaces the floor, right? And I also think we need a little bit more offense as well. And I think Bam provides more dynamic offense. It's
Yeah,
crazy to
man. He
say
can
because
basically
AD
run
used to
point
be really
center.
good. AD used to be really good. Like it's crazy
He's
how
still really
AD's
good.
offense have kind of regressed. AD's offense has kind of regressed.
Yeah, but that's
But
context. He's playing next to LeBron and
no, no,
KD.
no. No, I mean in the NBA even.
Right.
He used to be able to stretch the floor. His mid-ranges used to be money. He used to hit threes, right? And now it's just he's still a great player, but I think Bam actually gives us a legit shot at the gold medal.
Hmm. I am okay. So
We
that's
need a
interesting.
big. It has to be a big. It has to be a big.
So that's interesting. I think I could make an argument that is a solid idea. I think it could also make a really good case for a wing, like a
Okay.
really big wing,
KD.
Like Tatum or KD, one of those
It's
two guys.
KD. I'm sorry. We can't afford misses. We need KD.
Yeah, but Jason Tatum revenge tour, you're not here for it.
Oh no, no. KD. We need
J-
KD.
J- Jason Tatum's the best American player in the world, man, and he's getting
Bro, if he's the
DMPCDs.
best American player
Free
in the world,
Jason.
America's fallen off.
Well, America has fallen off. That is
Yeah.
clear. They're having you see that video of that dude shit. What's his name? He's always doing skits of LeBron and you know who I'm talking about? And he's supposed to be the opposing coach and he finds out
Oh yeah,
K-
yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah,
and
I'm
then
forgetting his name right now.
yeah,
And he finds out that the Team USA is so
RDC World or whatever.
there we go.
Yeah,
RDC
yeah,
World. Congrats. Yes. Salute
yeah.
to RDC World. I'm so stupid. I can't believe I can't remember that. And he's just like, you telling me Bam Adebayo? He's Nigerian. It's like
Yeah,
Joel Embiid. I know he's not American. LeBron.
yeah, that's
He's
French.
French.
Yeah, I know. You know what? You actually reminded me I think you mentioned this before, but it's like, remember Samuel Delamere?
Yes, I do.
Remember we turned him into a Canadian?
Wasn't he Canadian?
No, no, that was a naturalization. That was a wink, wink, wink.
Bro, he spoke French and he's
Sure.
from Montreal, no?
No, he's Haitian.
I know he's Haitian, but
Like
like
Haitian, not Canadian Haitian, Haitian. I remember they fast tracked his citizenship and he was starting to play for Team Canada, but it never really materialized and we were
yes, I
never really
remember that.
good. We need
He's
Who are
43
we
years
going to
old.
nationalize?
Could he help us right now? He's
Who are we
43.
going to nationalize? Because Team USA, who doesn't need any help,
Right.
freaking stole Joel Embiid. Can we get somebody? Can we get a big?
Does Justin Trudeau pull some
Like,
strings here?
I mean, Canada basketball. This is where you make your money. Start stealing, folks.
Jeez. I don't.
That Spanish guy. That Spanish
How
guy.
the
The
hell
black
did
guy.
I,
The black guy on Spain. The starting point guard. He's naturalized.
bro? He went to high school here. What are you talking about? He went to high school here. He went to high school in
Oh, okay.
Montreal.
All right. Then I'm misremembering, but still.
Yeah, hold on. Here, just to clarify the record, D'Alembert was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and lived there for 14 years before moving to Montreal, where he attended high school. He also attended St. Patrick High School in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Then he went to play basketball for Seton Hall. Okay, so yeah, he's
Yeah,
not Canadian, but
he was there for
like
like what, a
being
year?
in Canada for I don't think so.
It
Hold
wasn't
on.
long, but yeah, he wasn't a citizen. But I know this to be true, that they helped him get his citizenship quick so he can join the team.
Okay, let's
That
just
I
start
do
this.
know.
After much anticipation, D'Alembert became a Canadian citizen on October 7, 2007, and joined the Canadian national team in hopes of qualifying for the Olympics. He made his
There you
national
go.
team debut in 2007 FIBA America's Championship, leading the tournament with 2.4 blocks. He also participated in Canada's pre-Olympic qualifying training camp, taking part in games in both Toronto and Hamilton during 2008 Jack Donahue Classic, with wins over Donahue Classic with wins over Lebanon and New Zealand. However, D'Alembert was later dismissed from the team during World Cup tournament due to a rift between him and coach Leo Routens. Leo. That's funny. Okay.
I mean, that's
So, okay.
isn't he?
Hmm?
Can't believe he got into a disagreement with a 7-footer.
Well, you know what the disagreement was? Samuel D'Alembert is not a real 7-footer. He's 6'10".
Oh,
He's 6'11". My bad. So Leo was like, "Get that non-7-footer nonsense out of here, you 6'11" motherfucker." Okay, for real though, I think Samuel D'Alembert is an ideal type of big that you could really use right now, especially off the bench. But yeah, I like the idea of Bam. I wouldn't mind. I can't stand Joel Embiid though. So
no,
that's tough for me.
I'm not trying to win that way. I'm not trying to win that way. To owe Joel Embiid, to owe him, to say thank you to him, no, I'm good.
If you could go back,
Because if
like,
we win, he's going to be a big part of it. I can't.
bro, if you could go back like 25 years, whoever the hell was it, Jean Chrétien, whoever the hell was prime minister, I wish I could build a time machine, go back and offer Victor Wembanyama's father like $20 million to move here instead. Can we just do that? Build a time machine, like make a movie. This is like a movie plot. Just go back in time and make sure Wembanyama is born in Canada, born in Montreal. Shit, tell him it's France. I don't give a shit.
Or you could have just been like whoever was in charge of like immigration. You just kind of get a little biased towards like Cameroon and Nigeria, and we'll just we just breed them.
Yeah, but bro, like to anyone out there who's like against immigration, like okay, like yeah, look at Team France, bro. Like just look at Team France right now
At both major sports.
Yeah, every major sport, and of course, there's a lot of African people who feel like, hey, man, like these are our people, like on your team. But in the end, like diversity should, in a sense, make you stronger. It should make you stronger.
Do we even have bigs in the pipeline? Besides, like, there's Edie, but like,
I don't even know.
right? We just keep producing guards.
And
not even 6'9" hybrid wings.
But it's so weird how national teams go because, like, again, like, you would think that you spread the luck out, right? And you would get, to some extent, you would get a balance of guards, wings, bigs, like the old Yugoslavian teams. They had Vlade Divac, Drazen Petrovic, Tony Kukoc, Dino Radja. Like you had like a real spectrum of players who were really good, but also could play together. It's kind of weird that Canada has all these really good guards and really good wings, but they don't have any really good bigs right now. So hopefully Zach Edey is the answer to that. I'm not really sure that he is the full-time answer to it, because there are going to be teams that you're going to play where he's going to be a little slow, and you might really suffer that, to some extent, because again, like some of your advantages right now is that you can really play fast, right? So, what about Leonard Miller, right?
Leonard. Hmm.
Like, I mean, I think he's a pretty good player, and he's playing for Minnesota right now. I actually am surprised. He's not really like the type of big that you're thinking of, like in terms of, oh, he could be Samuel Dallenberg or Zach Edey or Bam Adebayo, but he's a big who can stretch the floor. He's a big who's athletic. He's a big who can, in theory, at least grab some rebounds and just be closer to 7 feet. I
Yeah,
don't know. He's definitely, in terms of upside, I think he projects as a better player than Trey Lyles. You know?
yeah, yeah. It's a shame like they're not ready.
Yeah. What do you think of this? Like, so there's been a lot of talk about RJ Barrett and how good he can be. And again, I'm watching these games and I'm seeing a really incomplete player. Like
Me
I'm
too.
seeing a
Me too.
player who is struggling defensively, occasionally struggling with decision making, and is benefiting a lot from how much attention is being sucked off of Shea. And I like that for him, but Scotty's not Shea right now. And so that's not going to be the same advantages that he's going to get. He's also extremely physical and he's also very one-dimensional in a lot of senses. Like
Yeah,
he's able to bully his way against FIBA competition, right? He's not facing the other team's best defender on a nightly basis. He's not exactly facing NBA talent. So when it goes up against Team USA, I'm very curious to see if some of this holds up. I'm also like, I'm optimistic about him, but to the people out here saying he's going to lead the Raptors in scoring, I'm not sure about that.
well, he's gonna lead us in scoring on a decent amount of nights. That is for sure. But like overall, I do think it's gonna be close between RJ, Scotty, and IQ. I don't think it's gonna be a gap. I don't think there's gonna be like a big. It might be like a 22, uh, 2019 situation. You know what I mean? I don't think it's gonna be huge. I don't think the gap is gonna be huge, but
I think it will be.
really,
I think there will be I
okay,
think there
give me your projections for the top three, the big three, the new big three, the BBQ. What are the points per games?
24, 20, 18.
And Scotty's 24.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Scotty's 24. IQ's 20 or
No,
IQ
I think
18.
I think RJ will be 20 and then
Okay.
IQ will be 18 to 20. So yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting that Scotty come out and try to score 30 points per game at all. And that's not really his game either. But at the end of the day, scoring and playmaking are so linked, right? So the notion that you would want your fourth or fifth best playmaker to be dominating possessions. Like,
Yeah.
I'm for it, bro. Like, that'll help us with the Cooper Flag situation massively, right? It also helps boost, perceived value, all that stuff, right? But I don't know. I think there's a reason why the Raptors have, sort of identified Scotty and IQ as the building blocks of the future. And I think
Yeah.
IQ, Grady and RJ are definitely a part of that. I just find it really almost insufferable when people start trying to argue that RJ is the best player on this team.
Yeah.
That is, like, to me, really crazy because defensively, he's the worst
Uh,
starter on this team. Like, he really is.
well, yeah.
And he
Gary's
needs to
gone.
get so much better. Like, I don't like gassing people up before they get there. When he gets there, like, if he comes out and he's like, even as good as Andrew Nembhard defensively, I will be like, okay, this is legit, legit. But that floor has to come up so much defensively, and he's trying really hard. I don't understand how people can talk about a guy who is basically a 90th percentile defender and a 90th percentile offensive player in Scotty Barnes and put him below a guy who's maybe an 85th percentile
You know,
offensive player and a 10th percentile defensive player. That is like really hard to imagine.
the thing with RJ2 is his game is predictable.
That's exactly it.
Very
I
predictable.
know what he's doing. Like every like I play a game with myself sometimes when he's about to do something. I'm like, I want to see if he shocks me, right? Like I want to like I'll pause it 1 second before he makes his decision, and
Yeah.
I'll say like, what's he about to do?
It's very predictable. But
Right
predictability
hand, left
doesn't
hand
matter.
crossover.
But again, predictability doesn't matter if the defense is in rotation. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
because it's
Yeah,
already compromised. There's already holes, and you know where I'm going, and you're not going to make it in time. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Goret Andrade saying, Rob, not saying he's the best player, but the best true scorer. Overall, Scotty's a star. So
No,
here's the
true
thing.
scorer means
He's not the best true
he's not
scorer.
attacking set defenses. That's a
Exactly.
true
So
scorer.
yeah, so I think you can make an argument that the most complete offensive player, the most complete scorer right now, which is really sad to say, is probably Manuel Quickly. That's the most complete scorer because he can really score on all three levels, right? Scotty is, in my opinion, right now, like from what I've seen of him in the last 3 months, he has leveled up beyond that. Like his pull up is looking really good. Like you've seen the clips, right?
Yeah, I have. I have.
Yeah. Like that was a snippet of it. Like when people see like Scotty go to I think what's he doing? He's doing the powder league next week or something like that. So when people see that, when people see like him moving around the court, you're gonna see a different ball handler. Like I literally just watched, I'm not kidding. I just watched a Scotty game from last year, earlier today, where he's trying to dribble and he literally just dribbles it into two defenders and loses the basketball. I'm like, dude, that's not the player I'm seeing right now at all. That is just not his handle right now. And there's so many times, there's a couple games against the Hawks where he tried to get really assertive, and you could just see that his mind is going one place and his feet are going another place and his arms are going another place. And that's where I would say, like a guy like RJ Barrett, I'm like, damn, just hand him the ball. It's not going to look this bad, right? But right now with Scotty, it's like the physical advantages, the playmaking advantage,
Mhm.
and just the overall decision making and also dynamicism of Scotty, right? You don't know if he's going to go left, right? You
Yeah.
don't know. You don't know if he's going to make a pass with his left hand or right hand. His game is not nearly as predictable, and I think that is what makes him a better first option. I think RJ could have a couple 40-point games, maybe even a 50-point game. If the defense is going to dictate it, Scotty and Emmanuel Quickly are not selfish players. They're going to find him all the
Do
time.
you remember his breakout game as a Raptor in San Francisco? Do you remember that?
Who's
RJ's.
in San Francisco? You
Yeah,
mean
against the Warriors. Do you remember that?
against Warriors?
Do you,
Yeah.
do you remember that? He couldn't miss. If you recall, how many of that was self-generated?
I don't
Not
remember.
much. Not much of it. But all we need RJ to do is hit his open threes, especially the corner threes, attack in transition, and score off of what IQ and Scotty create, and he'll eat and he'll be efficient. If you ask him to be number one, man, this 62 shooting percentage, man, that's gonna plummet so hard. So
Exactly. I think
fast.
I think people need to like really differentiate in their minds what they're asking of one player and another player, right? And what their skill sets really are. I take a guy like Pascal Siakam, right? That's a great example. I don't think he's suited to be a number one option. I don't think that means he can't score 25 points per game. I just don't think he's a number one option because I don't necessarily think his decision making is necessarily as great
Exactly.
as someone like a Tyrese Halliburton. Now, on a nightly basis, who's the first option? Really, it's Tyrese Halliburton, right? He is the first option in the sense that he is the number one playmaker, right?
Decision maker.
Right. And with the basketball in his hands down the stretch, he is the one who's been tasked to make a decision. Tonight, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the number one option, and he's been the number one option every single time Canada stepped on the court. Now, when Shai sucks in a triple, it's got to go out to a big, or it's got to go out to RJ cutting, or it's going to go out to RJ or Dylan Brooks or something like that. But ultimately, if you flip those positions, if you put Shai in the corner and RJ at the top of the key making the decisions, you get worse.
Mhm.
That's the whole point. So that's what I'm saying with Scotty and RJ. That's the thing. Like RJ's got to be the guy in the corner, right? Just like Pascal had to be the guy in the corner for the Raptors to win the championship. And you got to put your Kawhi in the middle. And so I think you have to ask yourself who has more in common with Kawhi Leonard on this team than Scotty Barnes? Nobody. It's just it's
What,
difficult for people to see it because RJ is so effortless in how he looks like he's scoring, right? Like it just looks a lot
yeah.
better.
I
And
mean,
he's
he's
just and that's because his skill work is so much further along. And that's what people don't understand. Like when I say that a player like Cade Cunningham, his skill work is so far, Or RJ Barrett, in my video of the NBA's giving up on RJ Barrett, I mentioned that, he's had the best coaching all the way through. His skill work has been so clearly refined because his father is freaking Canadian royalty, Rowan Barrett, you grow up around Steve Nash as like your godfather. You know what I mean? Like you've been around this game since you were a kid. You had the pro, you had no issues with money to access the best trainers. You've been to the best prep schools.
Yeah.
You went to the best, university.
If he is who you thought he was, he'd be better than this.
Exactly.
If he is who you thought he was, he wouldn't be a Raptor. He'd be a Knick.
He would be the franchise player for the Knicks,
Yeah.
right? So that is the thing. So I understand that people try to, gas themselves up because somebody scores a lot of points. And, there's this Hoops Hype global rating thing that put RJ Barrett as the best player in the world right now, right? In terms of the Olympics right now, per how they're calculating it, he's the
Oh,
best. Shea
yeah.
is the second best. Nikola Jokic is 20th. 20th. I think Yuta Watanabe might be better than Nikola Jokic. Let's I wonder why he retired from basketball. So it's like it's a little frustrating. I try to get ahead of things before I get behind them. I understand there's a steaming momentum from a lot of Canadian media to sort of see RJ as like the franchise player, and I don't want to become divisive against it, right? I really don't. Like, I really don't want to be that person who's just having to point out RJ's weaknesses every night because I think he's been phenomenal for the Raptors. Relative to the player I was expecting, he's been 2 times better than the player I was expecting.
But if this team is going to go anywhere this season, he has to be at best our third best player. If we're going to do anything, because it's going to have to be Scotty and IQ. It has to be that. It has to be.
Exactly. And if you're an RJ Barrett fan, you should want that to happen because that's going to be the best thing for RJ Barrett. It's also going to lead to the most easy scoring opportunities for him. RJ Barrett as a third option is unstoppable. Like really unstoppable. Like he has so much athleticism and force towards the rim,
the third
especially
best defender. He goes up against the third best defender. How many
that too.
teams have a third guy to put on somebody this physical that can get to the rim? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And honestly, I think it's also a good thing to have internal competition as well. So Scotty like could also look at a player like RJ as a barometer for his own success, right? Like they can push each other, right? Like they're relatively close in age. RJ's I think a year and a quarter, a year and a half older than him. So he's ahead. Like in a lot of ways, right now there's certain scoring things and certain things that he's been doing throughout. RJ had this a lot of what he's showing right now for Team Canada. I was seeing this stuff with him at Montverde. I was seeing this stuff in his rookie year, especially his sophomore year in New York. He's been good. He's been really good for a while. It's just the problem is there's a limit to where his game has been. Now, last year we saw better decision making, better rim finishing, and way more consistency. You're like, okay, if he can add the defense to this, he becomes a sub all-star. He becomes a sub all-star. He starts to, I hope, like really, really hope that a year from now, we are having a discussion of who's better, RJ Barrett or OG Anunoby. That would be amazing if that could ever happen.
Man,
right?
if that happens, this is the greatest trade.
Yes, because you got Emmanuel Quigley, you got your franchise point guard for jack shit.
But
it might, yeah. If that happens, that's great because he's obviously a better offensive player than OG.
Yeah, but
and
the
if
only way that happens is he has to up the defense. I'd go as far as to say if the Raptors are going to be competitive and they're going to do something this year, as in shock people and make the playoffs and maybe not even a play-in seed, RJ, the offense can come down a bit, but the defense has to go up. If the defense doesn't go up, it's irrelevant. I almost think it doesn't even matter if he sustains the offense. The defense.
Jamal Murray is not a great defender. Jamal Murray is not a great defender. But
his offense is paramount.
I think there's different ways you can do it, right? On the one hand, yeah, I agree with you. If he becomes a 3-and-D player with more creativity than the average 3-and-D player, he's basically on par with Mikal Bridges for me. Like that would be frigging phenomenal. At that level, I don't think we're ever going to have a discussion about RJ Barrett and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't think we're ever going to have discussions about RJ Barrett and Paul George, RJ Barrett, Kawhi Leonard. There's levels to this. There's like the Derek White level, and then there's like the Jason Tatum level, and it's a gap. It's a significant gap. It's like the top 20 players and then the top 50 players. I would say for the vast majority of RJ's career, the Knicks, he was not a top 50 player, 60 player, 70 player, 80 player. I think if he was a top 80 player, they would have been a lot kinder to him, and probably he'd still be a Knick, because a top 80 player who's 23 years old at $26 million is not a toxic asset. It's actually a brilliant asset. I don't think people understand that. Okay, two things. Number one, I don't think people understand how bad he was with the Knicks. Number two, I don't think people understand how transcendent his performance with the Raptors was relative to his Knicks performance, because it has
Yeah.
been night and day in terms of player, right? However, there were spurts with the Knicks where this version of him was there.
Mhm.
He didn't put it together for a long enough period of time. So now it's like saying this. It's like you take the best 10 RJ Barrett games and then you amplify it for an entire season. That's a drastically better player than a guy who goes 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. So he's just raised the overall level of his averages because he doesn't have stinkers as much anymore, right? Like I think his worst game next year is probably gonna be like 12 points on like, I don't know, 3 for 14 shooting or something like that, you know? But he's not gonna have a month of that. He's not gonna have like a consistent streak of that, I hope. And that makes him a way more valuable player. But what's the peak? What's the peak? Is his best game going to be like on par with, some of those Giannis,
No,
Shea,
no.
Jokic games? No. And that's the gap. If you want to build, you build your franchise around a guy who has a chance to be a top 15 player. Scotty's not a top 15 player right now, but he's damn close. So it's the gap between, Paolo and Franz, right? Yeah, like you can make an argument that Franz is a way better defender. He's got that, high floor in terms of value, but Paolo has that like real value add on offense that he could be really dynamic and really unstoppable. I don't know. I think there's a world in which they can be a really interesting dynamic duo, but I don't have any debates over who I want making the bulk of decisions for the Raptors. And if they put a really weak defender on RJ Barrett,
He
and
can post
yeah,
up too. He can post up too.
beast, go for
He
50.
Yeah, he does bully ball. He does bully ball. And what I like about his bully ball is he keeps it simple. He keeps
Yeah,
it I get close, push shot. That's it.
yeah. Ocean God saying RJ Barrett equals Rudy Gay. I don't think it's nearly that. But
He didn't
yes,
settle.
you
Rudy
could.
settled. Rudy settled. Rudy
Yeah.
was significantly more talented to me. Significantly.
Rudy Gay had just this athletic profile of the perfect wing player. He also had some
He's the
shot
dude you
making
created on
abilities.
2K. He's the guy you created on 2K.
Right. 6'8", crazy wingspan, just dynamic athlete, transition terror, but settle for a lot of jumpers. Not as good as he should have been on defense. I like RJ Barrett vastly more than I liked Rudy Gay, because RJ generates the most important shots in the NBA, which is at the rim, getting to
Mhm.
the line. Like he reminds me way more of DeMar DeRozan, like a
Yeah.
poor man's DeMar DeRozan right now. Same deficiencies, but DeMar got way better as a playmaker. He didn't quite get there as a defender, and Sacramento is going to find that out right now. But he got way better as a playmaker. If RJ, I'm not holding my breath on RJ defensively. I'm just not at that point. I don't think at this point he's never been a good defender at any level. Maybe in high school he was a good defender, but he hasn't been a good defender in the NBA ever. So I will say that if he becomes DeMar DeRozan San Antonio version as a playmaker, because we saw bits and pieces of it last year,
Yeah.
I think he can be an all-star. He could really be an all-star. Like I think he could be an all-star. But there's a gap between all-star and like first, second team all NBA. I see Scotty as a first, second team all NBA type of guy in his prime. I see RJ as a three-time all-star if things go very, very good for him. That's not shade. I'm just saying there's a gap between these two players. This would be like a Denver Nuggets fan who's a super Jamal Murray fan saying, yeah, fuck this Jokic guy. We're going to build around Jamal Murray. It's like, yeah, they're fantastic players. I'm sure either one of them could go off for 40, but there's a gap between these two players. And I think the gap is pretty significant.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But the same people that are saying, "Oh, RJ's the best scorer. He should be our number one option," are the same people who are shocked Gary Trent Jr. got the minimum. It's the same people. It's the same
It is
people.
the same people.
It's the same people.
Now I am shocked that Gary Trent. Okay, so here's the question: how much? Okay, I'm
I,
not.
I I said he wasn't even worth the mid-level exception. Now, the fact that he got him, I believed he was closer to the min than the mid-level exception. I don't value Gary that much at all. You are a one-trick pony, and the one thing you do, you can't even do it moving. You can't even be a movement shooter. I don't value him at all. You don't
I think
overpay dudes like that. You don't do it. He's had. I don't know if there's any player who
how
had
much worse is he than Luke Kennard? I know Luke Kennard shoots like 44% from three, but like how much worse is Gary Trent than Luke Kennard? Because Luke Kennard just signed for
not
$11
much,
million.
not much, and I wouldn't have paid him that either.
There you go.
I wouldn't have paid him that either.
I think shooting is expensive, man. You got Duncan Robinson still making, I think, $18 million, $20 million.
But at least he's a movement shooter and he's 6'8".
Yes, that is true. That is true.
It's harder to stop that dude from getting a three off than Gary is.
Yeah, and I think, it's so crazy to me sometimes when having basketball debates with people, how many people don't see the gap between what type of three is a three, like
That
some
dude is
people.
shifting half the floor when he comes off screens and curls. Gary isn't
Mhm.
doing that.
Exactly.
People are saying switch, 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 switch. It's already
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. SP saying, in my opinion, a number one option is your best decision maker. It doesn't have to be your highest score. I agree. But in the end, I think the more Scotty scores, right? The more Scotty scores, the more easy offense you'll be able to generate as a playmaker, right? If you look at, it was just listening to a reel with Jamal Murray where he was talking about, the synchronicity or the connection between scoring and playmaking, right? And scoring and passing. And he was like, "Hey, like you remember that game where Luca had, 70 something points or whatever? Look at how many assists he had that game, right? It matters that you're a threat to do both.
Like
It matters that
they don't know what you're gonna do.
exactly.
And they're kind of
That's
like with Luca, it's funny because he's so great. They're stuck in the middle. They're like, I'm fucked either way. Sometimes you catch people in the middle. I'm gonna help. I'm not. He's gonna pass. He's gonna score. Yeah, it's like you just brain melts.
exactly. And think that, when you start combining like this comment, like by Carl, this is why the Grady and Jacoby potential is so exciting. That kind of movement shooting with Scotty can be lethal. I completely agree. And that's why also you get so much pressure, right? With when I think about like how this team works. Scotty at the nail, trying to make a decision, sucking in a second defender, getting, a screen from Jakob, which frees up Grady coming up, popping up off the top, above the break, boom, easy three, right? Or on the other end, you have Emmanuel Quickley, who can run some action with RJ Barrett, and then you can create some sort of confusion there, force a switch. RJ gets a small on him, takes him to the basket, boom, easy.
The
And then
RJ
Scotty
dribble
flares out.
handoff.
There's so many different ways that this offense can really, really work. Ninja Agin is a short form of you. Yeah, like you're like I understand that. Like I don't like people who are this active in the chat. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you ain't saying nothing. How's it going? What's happening? Okay. So I'm gonna ask you to do less. Do a little bit less.
You're doing too much.
Yeah, do a little bit less.
Do a little bit less. Those are the
Yeah.
worst people to meet in real life, where you're like, bro, you're doing too much. Bring it down.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. You can't be positive without this dumbass coming up. Salvatore Russo back. All right. Well,
Is that
you know
the
what?
guy who was coming in to interview Dennis Schroeder from Germany? Is that him?
I don't know.
Okay.
All
All
I
right.
know is that we get trolls every once in a while. It's all good. It's all good, man. Y'all not doing nothing. It doesn't matter.
Bro, the Olympics are almost over, huh? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
starting,
yeah,
it's gonna end. Just starting, it's gonna end.
yeah. Man, it's been interesting. I haven't watched as much as I would have liked. I've watched basketball. I've watched France. France has not looked as good as I was thinking they would look at all. I've watched Team USA, I've watched France, I've watched Serbia, and I've watched Canada. Those are the games that I'm really watching. I'm not taking in, any of this other stuff. There's been a lot of talk about Simone Biles, greatest athlete of all time. That's been a conversation. There's been a talk about that Turkish guy who just
Oh, with
looked
the
like he
gun.
walked
Yeah, yeah,
walked
yeah,
off the street.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And there's also been a lot of talk about there's been a lot of talk about
The
the
boxer.
the boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That woman basically said, "Yeah, I surrender."
But did you realize that that's not a transsexual person? That was a woman. Did you know that?
I don't know, but she just surrendered.
Right. So the woman who surrendered on the basis that she thought that this Algerian athlete was a man or a transgender athlete. But according to everybody, including pictures of that transgender athlete, she is not a transgender athlete. She is a woman who had certain hormones that, perhaps, like you've heard of intersex, like people who have, certain hormones, and hormonal imbalances effectively can fluctuate the level of testosterone. If you've ever seen a female cop, their voice is a little bit deeper. If you've seen a female bodybuilder, you'll see their shoulders a little bit broader. Testosterone and estrogen is like flux. So people just really exposed how stupid they are about biology. But the amount of misinformation that came out, my heart really goes out to that woman, the Algerian boxer, because now a biological woman in a country in which homosexuality and transsexuality and literally changing your gender is illegal.
Yeah, she was from Iran, right?
Algeria. I'm pretty
Algeria.
sure, 99% sure Algeria.
Same thing. Same thing. They don't play it over there either.
I'm not. I can't. I do not support that. It's the same thing. That's you saying
No,
that.
but
But
I'm saying, yeah, but I know
you're
Algeria.
saying you're saying Iran also has the same policy against
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So there we go. Carl Ribeiro saying homosexuality and transgenderism is illegal in
Yes.
Algeria, yet a man represented Algeria in boxing since she was 19. There we go. Right. And by the way, to anyone who, ran with this, like that's irresponsible in my opinion, but also that this woman has not even had a very good success record in boxing.
Who was the person? Is she also the woman that was was banned from like a world competition that wasn't Olympics because of high testosterone? Like they found it was fishy, so she got excluded from something.
I believe that that there was a certain test that was done that I don't remember what it was or know what
Mhm.
it was that effectively did not allow her to compete in a
In
certain.
like the world championships,
Yeah.
something like that.
Carl
Yeah,
Ribeiro saying she competed in Tokyo and lost in the quarterfinals. Glory be God. It's a dude with balls. Glory be God. Please, glory be to God. Live up to your name, for fuck's sake. And please don't say that, because it's not. It's clearly not. Okay. Yeah.
oh, and this is the last thing I want to say, man. Cord cutting and the new age of consuming content has ruined the Olympics because, man, I remember 2000, 2004, 96, watching it at home with my parents, and it was just on TV, and everyone was on the couch, and you watched the Olympics. You saw every event, whatever they had, swimming, track, right, soccer, basketball, tennis. You watched it. Now it's like, you know what I mean? You have to be. It's different. It's just different. It's just different. You're not catching as much as you used to catch.
Why do you think that is? Because we're not used to watching cable.
We're not in front of the TV on a couch.
Mm, that's
And it was
interesting.
there, and it was there. It was visible, and you were reminded by it because you walked into the house and the TV was on and the Olympics were on.
Yeah. It's interesting. Our building went to a different cable package, and now I have more options than ever. Like I've never had more options in my life. I'm literally scrolling 900 channels, and
Yeah.
I'm like 906 is a channel, 902 is a channel. Like I've never even heard of some of these channels, but they're all on, and I don't know who's watching these channels. There's like two people watching these channels. I'm pretty sure more people watch entire basketball than watch channel 902 on Rogers, whatever
Yeah.
the hell this is.
Who's keeping the lights on over there?
I don't know. I don't know. Are these people running TV shows out of their basements? I have no idea. So the question then becomes is like, is an abundance of choices maybe not the greatest thing?
It's not.
I
It's not.
really miss, okay, now this is gonna sound crazy, but the simplicity of my childhood was
Very.
so amazingly ridiculous. I remember having such a profound attachment to the 29 channels that we had. I knew them all
Yep.
off by heart. I knew exactly when my TV shows were going to be on, and I had to make it or I would miss it, right? This idea of like Batman is on at this time, I'll watch it. If I miss it, I miss it.
Yeah.
Power Rangers is on at this time. If I miss it, I miss it. I got to wake up for the Saturday morning cartoons. There's no replay, there's no DVR,
Mhm.
there's no YouTube, there's no Netflix, nothing. So it's weird actually to me.
Running home after school for some of those after school
Facts.
programmings. Yep.
Facts. Yeah, man.
Yep.
And it's like, so now I'm like, yo, have we gone too far?
Yep.
Have we gone just way too far
Way too much choice.
with exactly. And you know, like, did you ever watch Boy Meets World?
Of
Did anyone?
course.
Okay,
Of
you did.
course.
Did anyone in the chat watch Boy Meets World? Give Boy Meets World a shout out. This is probably not
Of
where
course.
anyone was expecting me to go with this. But do you remember that episode where Mr. Feeney talks about the Gutenberg printing press and how he says Gutenberg's generation thirsted for a new book every 6 months, and your generation gets a new printing press, sorry, a new book or a new web page every 3 seconds. And what do you do with it? You know what I mean? What do you do with it? And so, yes, you have never had more tools at your disposal. Literally, you can learn anything online right now. You could learn how to sew. You could learn how to mine gold. You could learn anything. There's master classes on everything, and they're very accessible and they're very cheap, right? You can do a $20 master class on how to learn, any software on earth. You want to learn how to video edit? Boom, 20 bucks. You got it, right? It's never been easier. And yet, the overwhelming number of choices can be paralysis for a lot of people. They're like, well, there's so many choices. So I really am a big proponent of minimalism, big time. Like cutting things out, getting down to the base elements, and just depriving yourself of things that you can access. That just because something becomes accessible to you does not mean that you have to jump at it, because less is more sometimes in life.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even like, because I remember there was a study done on this, and it was like the perfect number of decisions is 3. So when you get to decide, because if you get 2, it's like you're kind of boxed in. It's one or the other. But if you have 3, because the idea was if you go to like Shoppers Drug Mart and there's like 100 shampoos, you're just overwhelmed. You don't know which one you want. It's simple.
Right.
Just give me like 3 or 4, and I'll decide. I can make a decision. And that's where dating apps are destroying the world. It's too much choice. It's
Oh
endless.
my God. But it's also like when you browse, if you browse a dating app, if you browse OnlyFans, if you browse a porn site or whatever, any one of these things is giving you very unrealistic expectations of women, but also so many women,
Yes,
right? It's like the world became way too big, way too quick, and people just don't know what to do with it, I think. And one of the times I was thinking about this channel and how slow it is. This entire channel is slow content. There's no flash cuts. There's no super speedy stuff. I'm not hyping anything up. And someone wrote to me a couple of weeks ago that they said that they felt that by listening to these lives, their concentration for other slow tasks was actually going up, like reading books and doing other stuff like that. And I was just like really happy to hear that, because there is a reason to do it this way. This is, to me, I am mimicking all of my favorite radio show hosts from my 90s, 80s growing up. Like this to me was what they did. Talk radio. This is talk radio effectively. This is effectively what we are doing right now is talk radio in a very extended form. And it was slow. It wasn't cut. It wasn't quick, 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 quick. It wasn't get to the point and then done. But there is something very profound about increasing your attention span and being able to absorb long form content. And I'm not necessarily saying this is the only thing. There's plenty. There's Diary of a CEO. which is fantastic, and it gets very deep. And those episodes are like 2 hours. Jay Shetty podcast, those like an hour and a half. There's plenty of podcasts on there. Andrew
Yeah.
Huberman. There's there's Alexi something, and he interviewed all these people from MIT and stuff like that. And these conversations are very long and they're very detailed, and I love it. I love those detailed, long conversations. And so, yeah, that's what inspired some of my morning lives the last couple of days, where I was talking about intelligence, talking about
Mhm.
civic activity and stuff like that. It's just Lex Friedman. There we go. Lubicon saying Lex Friedman.
Yes, yes,
Yes, Lex
yeah, yeah.
Friedman.
I
That
like
is the
Friedman.
Lex Friedman podcast. He's awesome. And these are the people I think that are really, they're standing out to me because they're continuing to do the right thing, whereas everyone else is just like tricking. You watch a movie, you watch one of those videos, and then within 1 minute of clicking it, they've given you 18 pieces of information. And of course, your brain starts to get used to receiving information so quickly. But then, because your brain is being hacked to do things in on that pace, now when you want to make a video, you want to start reading a book, you want to start engaging in a masterclass, you realize that because you've been inputting information at such a rapid pace, you actually can't even trick your brain into doing that. You
I
can't cook. You know what I mean? I try to talk to there's a girl that I know. She's like, "Oh my god, the DoorDash prices are going up." I'm like, "Why don't you learn how to cook?" She's like, "I don't got time to cook." I'm like, "What, bro? You
yeah,
can't cook? It takes like
yeah.
an hour." She's like, "I don't got an hour." I'm like, what happened? Why do you not have an hour?
When I see people driving fast, it's like, you're rushing to go where? Home so you can watch YouTube? Like, what are you saving? 10 minutes max? Is that worth it? But shorts, when I'm watching shorts, if I
Mhm.
watch more than like 10 in a row, I can already feel it's like, I got to stop this. I got to stop. I got to cut this out. I don't like super quick next one, next one, next one, next one, next one. And
Mhm.
and they provide zero substance. It's nothing. I don't
Right.
like it. I don't like it.
Zigsaw Puzzle saying, "Rob, it takes way more than an hour to cook." I completely disagree. I completely disagree. And that, it's funny because a lot of people think that certain things take a certain amount of time, but that's because they don't know how to do them properly, or they haven't done them long enough in order for the process to make itself
E
efficient, right?
exactly.
I can make eggs. I can make an omelet in less than 5 minutes from start to finish. Like, from the moment I pull out the ingredients to the moment it's in my mouth, it's 5 to 6 minutes. That's how quick it is. My girlfriend will take 35 minutes to make the same omelet. For instance, I can make hakka chow mein and a pizza from scratch in less than an hour. Less than an hour. So it's quick. Everything is quick. Yeah, of course, there's certain elements where, okay, you need to let the dough rise or whatever, but I'm saying in terms of an hour of actual effort. And so at some point I have to ask myself, okay, do I want to eat homegrown ingredients? Do I want to, save on food prices, et cetera? Or do I want to just order DoorDash? And, you get into a habit of receiving things too easily. It becomes really difficult to receive things in the more difficult way, right? If you get used
Yeah.
to a house
Yeah.
cleaner cleaning your home every single week, it becomes very difficult to clean your own home. If you get used to someone driving you around, it becomes very difficult to drive your own car. Anything that you get used, one thing I've learned about life is you can get used to anything, good or bad.
Yep. But I used to meal prep, and I started out, and I was it was so slow. It was taking me like 3 hours. And a month later, yeah, I was multitasking. I had the rice cooking going, and then I had like chicken in the oven, and I had vegetables steaming all at once. Like, you just do it all at once. You can do it all in an hour. You can make enough
Facts.
food for you to last 3 days. You can have 3 meals for 3 days, and you can do it in an hour and a half. You got to get used to and comfortable where you got 3 to 4 pots going, 3 to 4 things going. You can get a slow cooker. You can have something in the air fryer. You can have something in the oven. You can get to that level, and you're doing like 4 meals quickly.
I
But
think it comes down to like sequencing
Mhm.
ingredients and stations, right?
Yes,
So the way I cook is, like, for instance, my chow mein. I make chow mein like a boss now. Okay, so my process is actually very simple. I take those noodles, the egg noodles. I throw them into a salad spinner. I put the water to boil, and while the water is boiling and while the noodles are going, I quickly cut up all my vegetables, the bok choy, the onions, everything, the tomatoes, the I quickly grind up the paste that's gonna go into the cooking pan. While all of this is happening, and while if there's some time to spare, then I take the water from the boil, I put the vegetables into the chow mein, and into the noodles, and then I pour the water for it to boil. Those 3 minutes are then used to put the pan so that it can get hot and to grind all the ingredients. I'm not kidding when I say I can make chow mein in 25 minutes. It's fast. It's like really fast. There's
You have to get
also
there.
an element of noodles and then peanut oil and soy sauce, which the soy sauce I put in. So again, it's all ingredients. Now, while if I have any time to spare, I immediately start washing dishes as well, so that
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
left to the end,
No
or at the
wasted
very
time.
least I let exactly. So and my girlfriend is just a completely different. And the other thing that I do is once I'm done with something, it goes in the bag or it goes back in the fridge. There's a bag of disposable or organics or whatever, so it's either shoved into there or there. So this is like a way to sequence everything into stations. I use the factory approach to cooking, and it sped me up a lot. It sped me up a lot. It used to take me 2 hours to make chow mein, and it was like,
I know.
man, like, when it takes 2 hours, it's like, shit, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to music, but I'm like, "Shit, it's 2 hours, like, maybe I should just order it off DoorDash." No. So
Well, I actually had to stop listening to things because you know how you said you can't do two things at once? I can't listen to people speaking in my ear and be as efficient as I need to be cooking.
right.
You can't do it. Because if
Mm,
you are, you're going from station to station. Oh, clean this, wash this, wipe this, get that out of the fridge, cut this, turn that down. But I'm listening to what they're saying and comprehending it. It's not happening.
right.
It's not.
Well, I mean, to each their own. I will sometimes listen to very soothing, sort of, like, slow melodic music,
There you
like,
go.
nothing that's deviating my attention too much, just something that sort of drowns out the noise a little bit and just allows me. And then, you know what the weird thing is, I try to, like, multitask with certain things, even though I expressed yesterday multitasking is not really possible. Like, yesterday when I was cleaning up all those tiles, I was like, "Okay, this is my gym routine." Like, all the shoulder work that I'm putting into scrubbing the shit out of these tiles, I mean, this is like, I gotta go to the gym tomorrow because 'cause I'm sweating up a storm, and it's like moving. And I could also look at, cooking as meditative, so it's like 2 birds, 1 stone, right? It is meditative. Like, to some extent, it's allowing your brain to think about things that you wanna think about, and allowing you that period of time to sort of cleanse your mind. And, you don't have to sit there and meditate. You can do other things that are meditative, you know?
No,
So, yeah, so I think, like, yeah, we only have so many hours in a day, and I just like to use them well. Anyways, any final thoughts on basketball or life or anything at all?
yeah, guys, cook for yourselves. I have a coworker. He's like in his 40s. He never buys food. He cooks for himself. And that dude has like no body fat. He doesn't even work out. He just eats healthy and he's just like flat tummy. That
Mm,
cook for yourself, guys. Cook for yourself. At least you know what you're eating. You can guarantee you know what you're eating.
that is true. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and plus it's very rewarding. I
And
think
it's
it's rewarding.
and it's cheap. Yeah, you actually feel good. You feel good when you cook for yourself and you eat. The fact that you saved money, you put in effort. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and I mean, like, to anyone out there who thinks guys shouldn't be able to cook, shut up. Some of the best chefs in the world are men, and I always remember going to Emeril Lagasse's restaurant when I was 8 or 9 years old.
I
It was
remember Emerald Live. I remember Emerald Live. That's me
mm,
aging myself because
yeah, 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 yeah.
I know the TikTokers don't know who Emerald is. I know they don't.
Yeah, so, I mean, we went to his restaurant, I think it was in Florida, and I still remember the bread. I was just like, "Ah, this is
What was
food," you know?
his phrase? He had this thing he would say.
I never watched Emeril live. I just went to his restaurant. I never
Oh,
watched live, so I have no idea. I know I would recognize him, but I didn't watch his show. Anyways, I have watched a lot of Gordon Ramsay though, bro. If you ever like, yeah, I've
yeah,
watched a lot of
I
Gordon
love that.
Ramsay.
The only thing I like about him is when he goes to like hotels or restaurants and like just takes over. That's what I love. I love it. I
You
love
fucking donkey. Oh
yeah.
my god, it's
And there's
hilarious.
that one stubborn person that does everything wrong, but they say this is how it's gonna be. Yeah, there's always that one resistance.
You know what? That's exactly it, right? Like that entire show. There
Bar
was a
Rescue. Remember you watched Bar Rescue?
I never watched Bar Rescue. I watched Hotel Hell. I watched I watched Hotel Hell, Kitchen Nightmares, and
Yes,
then
yes.
there was one more.
So all
There was
Gordon
one more.
Ramsay, all Gordon Ramsay.
They were all Gordon Ramsay.
Okay, yeah.
And it's interesting how many times you'll see somebody and, you know, it's interesting because I mean, every time I watch that show, I want to clean my whole house. Like every corner, I want to scrub. I'll be like, I wonder what the bacteria level would be on that corner that I almost always miss when I'm mopping, you know? Like, would Gordon Ramsay come here and be like, yo, you fucking disgusting? So, I mean, like we had a hard to reach vent in our bathroom that, was just building up dust and dust and dust. And I was like, I think we haven't cleaned that for like 3, 4 months. And it's just built up so much dust. I'm like, shit, like I got to clean that. Right. But then also, like, you realize over and over again how stubborn people can become and get set in their ways of doing things. Right. And I think one of the most comforting things that I've realized over the last, couple of years is just how much ego gets in the way of progress. you know, a lot of these people probably know that they're fucking up. They know that their hotel is not doing well. They know
Yep,
that, and it's the
yep.
same thing with basketball players, right? When you really get down to the nitty gritty of it, there's a basketball player out there who was a star in high school, went to the NBA, wasn't successful. Coaches cut him. He got cut 3 times and claimed conspiracy. He said, no, 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 no. There's something against me. It's political, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he has people in his ear telling him so. He has people in his ear telling him that, but it's probably you're not working hard enough, you're not skilled enough, you're not good enough, and you need to get better. And it takes unique sometimes it takes a unique individual to break through to that person, right?
I
It
just
takes your Gordon Ramsay or maybe it takes a Yoda type.
do you really think those restaurants lasted 5 more years? Like, I feel like most of those people revert. They
No.
seemed so unfixable.
Yeah. I think uh, Sahaj Chawla saying, do you think Zach Levine or the Bulls are to blame due to their failure? I think it's just
I mean,
you don't have enough of something. You don't have enough rim pressure, rim defense. It's not going to matter how many guards you put on your team. You just can't stop the basketball. The Bulls haven't been bad the last 2 years. They haven't been good, but they haven't been bad. They've just kind of been in the middle. They've been in the play-in. The last 2 years, they've been in that play-in situation, right? They're not bad enough because DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Zach Levine, Nikola Vucevic, these guys are all NBA talents. Patrick Williams, Kobe White, like these are good players. They're just not good enough, right? And so, there's that gap between and I was talking about yesterday where or 2 days ago where the Raptors over under is at 30.5 and it's like, "Oh, that's the worst place because you're not in the play-in, you're not really in contention, but you're also not bottoming out." So that's where you really don't want to be. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to be in the middle. I want to be in the 6th seed." 6th seed's fantastic. Go beat the 6th seed. Go have a competitive playoff series. What I don't want to be is like the 9th team in the lottery. I don't want to be the 9th. I'd rather be 13th, personally. 13th or 14th, at least I had a chance to make the playoffs. But this
okay, so
9th, 10th place it's really bad.
that means the play-in didn't make anybody feel better. It didn't make ninth feel better. It's still bad. If you're an exec, it's still shitty.
Well, here's how I see it. Like I was talking about the winner effect like 2 lives ago, and it talks about, the consequence of winning and how it can shape
Yes.
the mind and stuff. Why don't why don't we think about winning in other areas too? Like, for instance, we could think about winning in the in-season tournament. It's perfectly possible to win the in-season tournament and then tank the rest of the year. you know, or like be really competitive in those games. The thing that drove me crazy about the Raptors last year is they didn't seem to take the in-season tournament seriously at all. And that really pissed me off, like to the point where the coaches and the players didn't seem to know that point differential was on the table. It's like they didn't even think of it as anything. They were just like, whatever, we're gonna ignore this.
That was
And
the
that was
game Scotty was at the scores table where we still had a chance against Boston at home. That
yes.
was the scores table game. Man, that
Yeah.
was hard to watch.
Yeah. But what was hardest to watch is how clueless everybody seemed about it and how nonchalant everyone was about it. Like it's like, okay, you're trying to build winning habits. Well, okay, we can argue the summer league doesn't count because nobody cares. And we can argue preseason doesn't count because no one's trying. But here you have something actually on the line and you're trying to instill winning habits. Why not win this? Now, of course, I'm a little bit terrified of what the Raptors would have done under Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster had they won that tournament. Maybe OG and Pascal don't get traded, number one. You know what I mean? And maybe they trade like a first round pick for something. I don't even know like what they would have traded. They're like, oh my God, we're NBA championship contenders. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise. But I would have liked them to see try harder. And I think this year they should really, really hone in on trying to win those games. Like, if nothing else, put everything on the line for those 5 games. I don't care if you play Ulrich Shamshay and Jonathan Mobo and Jamal Shed and whatever start Grady for shit's sake. I don't care. Like, play Kelly at center, do all these tanking moves in all the other games. But in those 4 or 5 games that you play for the in-season tournament, or if you are blessed enough to make the play-in,
That's
fine.
crazy to think about. Imagine there's a team that loses every game except the in-season tournament games. Their
Mm.
record is like bottom 4 in the league, but they're in the in-season tournament because they won those games. That'd be hilarious.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's possible. That's possible.
But I mean, look at Indiana, right? Like, Indiana goes to the finals for the in-season tournament. They lose to the Lakers, right? But did that give them like a lot of momentum? You
Mhm.
know, you could
And
you could argue they actually fell off right after, but
Halliburton felt like uh, he was smelling his own farts a little too much.
yeah, that really did. And again, but it's that weirdly declared Tyrese Halliburton as a top 10 player in the NBA. It also, I think, weirdly made Indiana comfortable in making a win now move for Pascal Siakam. So, it changed sort of the identity of the team. And I think it sort of changed the standards, like to the point where Eastern Conference Finals is the goal, you know? Whereas previously, I think winning one round would have been the goal where Indiana had been. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Thanks for
All right.
calling in.
Yep.
Always cool to talk, and I'll catch you next time, man. Peace. All right. And 1 hour and 36 minutes later, hopefully this was a cool one for the community. Talked about cooking. We talked about Boy Meets World. We talked about Emerald Lagasse. Who says we don't have range? We have plenty of range. We dealt with a couple of trolls. Get to a couple of super chats here. Thank you so much. Canadian guy saying, we'll support your channel tonight while at a Def Leppard concert. Well, lucky you and lucky me. Thank you so much. And Gregory, coffee for you and your girlfriend tomorrow. Thank you. She just had a dental surgery. So that's where we were early in the morning. And then I came back. And of course, to those of you who caught the Jamal Shed live, I hadn't slept. So I was very tired. And I went to sleep. And she tried to wake me up when the Team Canada game started at 11. And I'm like, nope, I'm not waking up for this. And so I slept through the entire Team Canada game. And I had this dream that Canada lost. I don't know how to explain this dream, but Canada 100% lost. And I thought that it was real. So when I woke up, I was 100% convinced that Canada lost. But I also didn't want to check the score. So then I turned on YouTube and I watched the entire game. And you can only imagine my heart knowing that Canada lost in my mind, watching the last minute of this game. I'm like, oh my God, how did they lose this game? It was really funny. Anyways, so that's yeah, the dreams that seem real are the worst sometimes. Yeah, they're also the best sometimes. So yes, I have no idea how Canada lost in my dreams, but I'm really glad they won in real life. Thank you all to this community, and we are 50 subscribers away from 11,000 subscribers. If you can get us there, that would be much appreciated. James Barron with a super chat here. Thank you so much, James, for this. Appreciate it. And also, little community announcement on August 4th, I believe at 7:30, I will be on Player's Choice in the PCL. The PCL is a tournament of 16 debaters, and it is my first ever PCL. And I will be debating Toronto Raptors versus Los Angeles Lakers. And unfortunately, for better or for worse, the results of the debate are tabulated by audience vote. So I'm going to need y'all to show up on Sunday. Sunday at 7:30, which is in 2 days. and vote the shit out of the Raptors for this, and subsequently me. KAS intentionally no message. Thanks a lot. Thanks for super chatting in a very cryptic way. Appreciate it. Sahaj saying we got your back. Absolutely. So it's gonna be the Lakers, the 2020 Lakers versus the 2019 Raptors. I'm gonna just workshop my pitch for y'all on the 2019 Raptors, like maybe the day before, and y'all let me know like if it's a compelling argument. My God, man, like it is such a compelling argument. I just have to read out the roster, and it's just like those players, what they became. Like you realize OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet were not like the main guys on that team. Like when you start talking, I feel like almost every single person forgets how deep that team was. Who you facing? I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I don't know him. So or her. I have no idea. I'm not too concerned though. I'm not too concerned. I mean, look, here's the thing. I'm debating against the Lakers and LeBron James as a guy who already didn't put LeBron in his top 2. So, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of backlash against me. Plus, I'm a Canadian who's arguing for the Raptors. There's gonna be a lot of American backlash, so we gotta balance that out. Anyways, it's proceeding, and the winner of the PCL wins $1,000. So that will be, several debates later. It'll be $1,000 on the line live in Seattle. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, the Jigsaw Puzzle saying they already hated you for not putting Kobe in the top 10. He's really not a top 10 player. I love Kobe Bryant. He's just not a top 10 player. I don't get it personally, but whatever. I love Kobe. I think he's like one of my favorite players. Like I can love Kobe and Allen Iverson. I just don't think they're top 10 players. Anyways, I love Dwayne Wade, Manu Ginobili. Like, there's so many players that I love that I don't know how to put them in the top 20. Kobe probably has the best argument of those players to meet the top 15. Top 10 what of all time? Top 10 players of all time. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think people sleep on Bill Russell way too much. But maybe I'm way too high on Bill Russell. Do I need to rethink Bill Russell in my positioning? I just can't get over 11 championships, man. I can't get over how good you have to be to dominate defensively, and I also can't get over the fact that because they didn't chart blocks at the time, we really are not fully appreciating just how good of a player he is. We got into debate the other day also. I think Ox and I got into a major debate over whether Derek White was the right fit for Team USA versus Jaylen Brown, and I just said, I don't really think there's a big gap between those two players. I think Jaylen Brown's like the 22nd maybe best player, and I think Derek White might be the 40th best player in the NBA, or maybe 45th. Like I acknowledge Jaylen Brown's better, but for what Team USA needs, I think Derek White's better. And true to form, Derek White has a great game against South Sudan, literally the next game. And, you know, who are your favorite of the below the radar guys? One of mine is Boris Diaw. Below the radar guys who I think were really underrated. Brian Grant, Portland Trailblazers, Miami Heat. That guy was awesome. Robert Ory. I know that he gets a lot of, credit. I think Rasheed Wallace is really underrated. Who else do I think is underrated? Underrated guys in NBA history. Danny Green. Holy Danny Green. Danny Green's so good. Danny was so good. And, the Raptors really lucked out because he was just a toss in that trade for most fans, but he was so instrumental for me in terms of yeah. So clearly I like defense. I really care about defense a lot because I just named a lot of guys who like defense. I don't know why Trevor Ariza came to mind right away. It's a little bit underrated, sure. Pau Gasol, like just overall, Powell and Marc Gasol, I think they never really completely got their due in terms of just how good they were. Derek White's a great example of a guy that I think's been underrated for a really long time. Herb Jones, under the radar guys, under the radar guys. I do like Boris Diaw. I think he's a fantastic playmaker. Is there another guy that is just under the radar that I think was just way better than people remember him being? Y'all got any in mind? I'm not thinking of any right off the top of my head. It's hard to think right now. Like who is just way better than people remember. I'm gonna think about it for a bit. I gotta think about it. Doug Christie was awesome. Andre Iguodala was great. Sabonis' rookie year. Yep. I mean, Andre Iguodala won a Finals MVP. I think at this point we understand how good he was. Sabonis' rookie year, check his advanced stats. Yes, I am fully aware of how good Arvydas Sabonis was. And I think he is, I watched somebody rank out the top 100 players of all time and not put Arvydas Sabonis. I was punching air that day and I needed to touch grass. Anyways, I need to talk to y'all later. Thank you so much again for these super chats. Thank you again for all the e-transfers and everything that y'all have been doing. I never received an Amazon gift card before, but then got that very touching one yesterday. August 4th is the day we set up our studio. We set up this light that has been sitting here. We set up the sound panels and everything. We level up. We level up and, hopefully never look back. For the quarterfinals onward, we will be doing a far, far better show for the quarterfinals onward. So group stage kind of just winged it a little bit, right? With the post game shows. But for the quarterfinals, I want to do something far closer to like being able to show plays. And I realized that these Olympic people are very, very touchy about you showing any clip of anything. So I'm gonna have to be really careful about it because I'm not trying to get a community strike or whatever, another one, and then have my channel banned. So that's why I've been a little bit cautious about it. But I think I can show like 1 or 2 seconds slowed down so I can show specific things that maybe, especially because this is a Raptors channel, but also a Canadian channel, that we can hone in on RJ and Kelly and what they're doing right and wrong, etc. So maybe, it could be interesting. I think the next game that Canada will play will be probably against France, right? I'm not sure. So we'll see. But if they're up against France, that'll be a really big test. Flowery and DeRosa saying Al Jefferson. Hmm. I'm not sure I completely agree with you on that. I think he might have been a little overrated. Just an opinion. No, this question is gonna bug me. Like, I think it's gonna bug me for a good 2 hours. Like, who are underrated players that I think really didn't get their just due? Is Latrell Sprewell underrated because of the controversy? I thought he was really instrumental. Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell is one. Sam Cassell is one for sure. Who's better, RJ or Jamal Murray? Jamal Murray is a better player. Yes. He's a better playmaker. He's a better shot maker. He's more dynamic. And neither one of them is very good defensively. Who's playing better right now? RJ. Who's been playing better for the last 4 or 5 months? RJ. If he can do this for another 4 or 5 months and Jamal looks the way he's looked off Jokic, I think you can make a really, really solid case that RJ is a better player. Hmm. Murray was getting cooked on Twitter today. I mean, can we please not like be such prisoners of the moment? We were talking about Jamal Murray at this time last year. It's just 365 days ago, guys, as an NBA champion, as the second best player on an NBA championship team. And if y'all remember who the second best player on most NBA championship teams are, they're usually superstars, right? You can say a lot about how great Nikola Jokic is as a floor raiser, but you know, Jamal Murray was amazing. We're also talking about a guy who just 2 months ago hit two game winners. Granted, all the defensive liabilities. I'm not defending Jamal Murray at all. I'm not even a big Jamal Murray fan, to be completely frank with you. I'm a much bigger Shai Gilgeous-Alexander fan, and I'm a much bigger RJ Barrett fan. I've never been a huge fan of Jamal Murray or Andrew Wiggins either. So this is just me being 100 with you. Like I like certain Canadian players, but I'm not Canadian enough. I wasn't born here to the point where I'm like, oh, you're Canadian. I love you. I don't have that in me. I also don't have that with anything. I don't have that with the Raptors. I don't have that with Serbia. I don't have that with anybody. There's nothing that I'm supporting blindly at all. So for me, I haven't necessarily been like the biggest fan of Jamal's game. That being said, I respect it. I respect his shot making. I respect what he does in the pick and roll. I respect his gravity as a shooter and a shot maker, and I respect him as a playmaker. So yeah, like it would be a huge thing for RJ Barrett to pass him, but I think it would be a bigger thing for RJ Barrett to pass him at his peak because peak Jamal Murray is by far the second best player on this team. Yeah. Zigsaw Puzzle saying it's crazy how a few bad nights fuck up your reputation. Yes. Yes, that is true. It is really sad that we are in a world where effectively, we have to formulate an opinion about a person every week. Like do you think RJ Barrett can become an undersized Danny Granger? Danny Granger, no, of course not. I mean, Danny Granger was like I understand why you would say that because there's a lot of physical similarities between the two, but they're not comparable players at all. I mean, Danny Granger is a fantastic 3 and D guy. I think at some point he was averaging like 2 blocks and 2 steals per game in college. Like that was just a rangy 3 and D defender, and he had more of an in-between game and stuff. I don't think so. I really think the DeMar DeRozan thing is the way to go. Go the DeMar way. He has a lot of the same stuff that DeMar has. Maybe he's not as shifty or as dynamic in the mid range. So add that. He's not as good a playmaker. Add that. Try to get a little bit better defensively, and boom, you're an all star. Congratulations. That'd be great. $27 million for an all star is a steal. Country Kong, can RJ become a poor man's Harden? What? Have you watched have you watched James Harden play basketball? Like the free throw merchant part? Maybe. The driving part? Maybe. But the deep shooting, the volume 3-point shooting, and the playmaking at his absolute apex, James Harden's one of probably the top 20 half court playmakers of all time. What? Bro, if he becomes a poor man's James Harden, consider Raptor fans the luckiest fan base in the world because that is just it's so speechless. Speechless. Yeah. I know you said poor man's, but this is like me asking if this would be like me asking if Grady Dick can become a poor man's Michael Jordan. Like it's really like it's like it yeah, I get it, but whoa, where? Yeah. Yeah, people shouldn't disrespect James Harden or Kyrie Irving or Russell Westbrook or frankly a lot of players. I think there's a lot to be said about their games, Paul George, but ultimately the media has had a really big hand in terms of swinging perception against these players because of their perceived lack of success. See, the media machine is, in my opinion, it's all built on volatility. Actually, this is let me introduce a golden nugget to the 128 of you that have actually stuck this out, because I'm sure 1,000 people have passed through this live, dipped in, maybe someone was in as long as we were talking about basketball, but the minute we started talking about Boy Meets World, they're like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And then there were certain people who were in on the cooking, but then they were out on, you know, DoorDash and OnlyFans and transgender athletes. Okay, so we've gone a long way. We've gone a long way to get to the point. And the point of this is okay. I used to watch okay, so I worked at a hedge fund, and there were a lot of speculative biotech stocks. So I worked at a biotech hedge fund, and which is to say a hedge fund that specializes in biotechnology. So new drugs, FDA, that's my whole world. There's just like sheets and sheets and sheets of FDA approvals and trying to figure out how you can gain public sentiment and public support for the idea that this is the next Pfizer, this is the next Moderna, this is whatever. So What was explained to me when I was 18, 19 years old was effectively that stocks work on volume, that you need to move things up and move things down in order to make money. And that ultimately, when a stock is moving up, somebody is making money, but also when it is moving down, somebody else is making money. And so the worst thing that a trader or a swing trader or a day trader wants is a stock that starts the day at $54 and ends the day at $54. That's the last thing you want. It's not enough to just say, Scotty Barnes is a really good player. RJ Barrett's a really good player. And then at the end of the year, say, Scotty Barnes is still a really good player. And Emmanuel Quickley is a good player, and RJ Barrett is a good player. It's not enough. No, 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 no. We need swings in order to generate the money from the content. And so it's the same thing. They call it pump and dump, right? Pump it up. Russell Westbrook's the next Oscar Robertson. James Harden, is he a better pure scorer than Michael Jordan? So pump, watch him fail in the playoffs, dump. That's how it works. That is how it works. They pump these dudes up. Scotty Barnes, right? What happened with Scotty Barnes? They dumped him first, right? Should have been Suggs, should have been this, should have been that. He's not a good player, zero level scorer, etc. So they dumped him first. Then came the hero arc, right? Oh, he's great. Oh my God, he's way better. Oh, he worked way harder. Could he be the next Scottie Pippen? Could he be the next Giannis Antetokounmpo? Struggles in a second year, dump, right? Becomes an all-star, pump. And now if he goes into the playoffs and averages 15 points a game, dump. And then he comes back and averages 25, 25, 10, and 10, pump. Overcomes the playoff struggles, pump. Gets to the conference finals, pump. Gets into the NBA finals, gets swept. Well, Giannis Antetokounmpo didn't get swept. Scottie Pippen didn't get swept. Dump again. Pump and dump, bro. That's their entire model. And once you figure it out, once you figure out that that's what they've been doing, once you figure out that that's what they do, and you ain't never seen me pump and dump on Scotty Barnes ever. You never seen that. You didn't see me pump and dump on Grady Dick. You didn't see me pump and dump on anybody because that's not how I believe that this shit needs to go. I didn't pump and dump on RJ Barrett. And in fact, I also didn't pump and dump on Urish Shamshay. I adjusted my expectations when he showed. But if he comes out next year and really struggles, I'm not going to start tearing the kid apart. You know, like I'm realistic about it. I'm not trying to elevate myself as like, oh, I'm above this behavior. I'm sure to some extent I have been critical of players, then been not so critical of players, but I'm not doing it in any sort of malicious or conscious way of saying like, okay, well, in order to generate highlights today, or in order to generate content, or in order to generate revenue, I need to talk bad about this player when he's doing bad and talk good about this player when they're doing good. Like, so the point is, you should never end your career on a dump because there was a lot of pump and dump on Michael Jordan as well early on, right? They crowned him king, then they said scoring champion can't win, right? There was a lot of pump and dump on Hakeem Olajuwon as well, right? If y'all remember the 90s, then you will remember these things. But today, we don't talk about Hakeem Olajuwon selfish. Hakeem Olajuwon doesn't pass to his teammates. Hakeem Olajuwon is just interested in about himself. We don't talk about that narrative because he won championships in Houston. He won two. We don't talk about Tim Duncan, the boring player who's super unmarketable, that the league will lose money every time he makes the finals, so keep him out of the finals. We don't talk about that as much. We talk about Tim Duncan, champion. We don't talk about Michael Jordan, the selfish scorer who will never win a championship because he won six. We don't talk about Michael Jordan, the gambling fiend, the crazy teammate who burned out all his teammates and, constantly picked on owners and, was just psychotic in terms of his, because we frame that as great, right? We don't talk about Kobe Bryant, the immature brat who chased away Shaquille O'Neal, couldn't get along with his teammates, was an absolute pariah, didn't talk to his teammates for a year. We don't talk about that guy because we remember a different ending. We remember 60 points. We remember the Achilles tear. We remember 5 championships. Narratives shape sports. They shape how you think about Rasheed Wallace as that guy who got a lot of technicals instead of one of the best post defenders ever, who was an incredible teammate. They shape, how you think about Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, etc. So all these players are shaped by narratives. I think it's important to be closer to reality on some of these narratives because, it's a little careless if it's not. Anyways, talk to y'all later. Just shy of 2 hours. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope this was a good live. If it was, give me a thumbs up. If it wasn't, tell me why it wasn't in the comments below. Talk to y'all later. Bye.